I would like to talk with you guys about something that I believe is important for the genre that is fighting games. Input difficulty. So, I'm not a super old head when it comes to fighting games, since the furthest back that I've actually played were mainly UMVC 3, MK9, and Street Fighter 4, so I might not be the most qualified to make this claim. However, it seems to me that a fair bit of modern-day fighting games are making input difficulty a little bit too easy. Some might think this is fine, or that it doesn't actually matter at all, and that it's just breaking down the barrier for new players to the genre, and in a way it definitely is, but I'm worried this is heading down a bit of a slippery slope. So let me ask you a question. Do you like rock, paper, scissors? And a follow-up. Do you think you can play rock, paper, scissors for hours on end without getting bored? If your answer is yes to both, then this video might become a moot point in your eyes. RPS is essentially fighting games broken down to its most basic form. Both sides make a guess, and one side wins. Pretty straightforward. The whole point of fighting games is to expand on this concept and stray as far away from actual RPS as possible, hopefully without getting too crazy or ridiculous, by making it so that there are more situations where guesses can be made to drag out the process of someone winning. Every move is meant to tip the scale in one side's favor, be it with plus frames, distance, resources like meter, etc. Input requirements should play a part in this to maintain a certain level of fairness. Some input difficulty is needed in order to justify how strong a character can be. A great example of this being puppet characters. A puppet character would more often than not have an inherent advantage in a match, given that they are two whole characters. The requirements for learning said character should be decently high, since they can put you in situations that are heavily weighted in their favor. The person playing them needed to work harder to build the muscle memory on both the main character and the puppet, and needs to consistently execute with both without error in a match. Therefore, their rewards should reflect how much effort they put in. Granted, this doesn't mean that high execution characters should be broken. There should be a limit to how powerful you can make them as to not break the rules of the game, so to speak. Now, here's some food for thought. The less inputs/input difficulty you have in your game, the more likely it is that the game ends up limited on how interesting it can be due to less options causing a lack of variety and depth. The DP motion. Some might say this is where it all starts with input difficulty. It feels awkward to beginners, and maybe even to some veterans. A handful of newer games have decided to take away this input altogether, and from where I stand, it looks as if this is the cause to some problems. By removing this one motion, you've now taken away at bare minimum one tool from a character's toolkit. You could circumvent this by placing different tools on different buttons. However, when you do that, you lose out on having multiple versions of the same tool that have different properties, leading to less possibility in combo creativity. Not to mention, you remove some of the ability to play off of the character's input directions. This is especially apparent with the removal of charge inputs, since a charge character's entire move list requires them to hold a direction for a certain period of time before releasing it in the opposite direction. Alright, now some of you might be thinking, so Strange, do you want to go back to fighting games needing a level of execution for games like Street Fighter 4 or Guilty Gear X+R? To which I want to say, not at all. There are some things that I deem a little bit unnecessary or just plain too far in the way of execution, such as mashing for extra damage during supers. Or most, if not all, characters on the roster requiring consistent one-frame inputs for a basic game plan. Some might debate that needing to wiggle the stick back and forth to recover from stagger would fall into the unnecessary category, me included, but some others could give the argument that it creates a layer of depth that both players can play around with. So for argument's sake, let's say that mechanic is fine ? For the most part, I'm only hoping the norm for the average fighting game made past a certain point doesn't reach the level where every character has almost the same difficulty to play with varying risk-reward, or the same risk-reward with varying difficulty to play, since I believe both cause balancing issues. All in all, the main things that I want to see are more fighting games with a low skill floor, but high skill ceiling without venturing away from entire input types and slightly complicated motions, because I believe that playing around opponents with them is a large part of the fun, and playing with characters that have them can give you a truly rewarding feeling that's hard to get in most genres of games. Thanks for watching, and see you in half a year when I finally decide to make another video again.